This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Mosaic, a daily news program from Link TV, presents a selection of news reports from independent and state-controlled broadcasters from throughout the Middle East.
أحالت السلطات السعودية 991 متهما من المتورطين في قضايا.
Saudi authorities have turned over nearly 991 terror suspects to Sharia courts. The suspects have been indicted on charges stemming from their affiliation with cells run by al-Qaeda, as well as their involvement in more than 30 terror attacks since 2003. Meanwhile, the Saudi Interior Minister, Prince Nayef bin Abed Aziz, said that charges had been filed against the suspects who have been turned over to the courts for trial. He added that the indictments aim to put an end to a chapter of violent opposition directed against the Saudi government. Prince Nayef further said the trials will be done in the framework of the judicial system practiced in the Saudi kingdom.
في إجراء هو الأول من نوعه منذ اندلاع أعمال العنف في المملكة السعودية.
In an unprecedented measure since the eruption of violent acts in the Saudi kingdom 5 years ago, authorities have turned over nearly 1,000 people to the courts for trials. The suspects have been indicted on terror charges for their affiliation with al-Qaeda organization. This latest move indicates that the Saudi government has decided to turn the heat on the opposition.
ويتهم بيان وزير الداخلية السعودي الأمير نايف بن عبد العزيز المتشددين.
The statement issued by the Saudi Minister of Interior, Prince Nayef bin Abdelaziz, accused the extremists of carrying out more than 30 terror attacks, ranging from suicide bomb attacks on housing compounds in Riyadh in 2003 to an attempt to storm the world's biggest oil processing plant at Abqaiq in 2006.
العرب حملته عام 2003 ضد الحكومة السعودية الحليفة للولايات المتحدة.
Since al-Qaeda's faction in the Arabian Peninsula began a campaign to destabilize the U.S. allied government in 2003, more than 90 Saudi and foreign residents have been killed. In addition, more than 74 members of security forces have been killed, and hundreds of others have been wounded. The Saudi statement added that more than 160 planned attacks had been foiled. During security operations against al-Qaeda, weapons and 3 tons of explosives have been seized. In addition, more than 25 tons of materials that could have been used in the assembling of bombs had also been seized.
المتحدث باسم وزارة الداخلية إن وزارة الداخلية قدمت لوزارة العدل الملفات الخاصة بالمتهم.
Meanwhile, Major General Mansour Turki, the spokesman for the Saudi Ministry of Interior, said that his ministry submitted the suspects' files to the Ministry of Justice, and the Ministry of Justice will decide when and where the suspects will be tried. Turki added the trials will be held in the framework of the judicial system practiced in the Saudi kingdom. He said the suspects will be turned over to Sharia courts after finalizing the list of charges. However, the New York-based Human Rights Watch said that the trials may not meet international standards. The international watchdog said that the precise charges against the defendants remain unclear because the kingdom has no written penal code and existing rulings do not constitute binding judicial precedent. Furthermore, Human Rights Watch is seeking permission from the government of Saudi Arabia to attend the trials. HRW said that nearly 3,000 people are still detained without charge. 1,500 detainees were released last November without trial through rehabilitation programs. During last year, the Saudi authorities have detained hundreds of people on suspicion of trying to revive radical cells.
ونبقى في الشأن العراقي حيث تمتلئ المعتقلات.
In Iraq, the detention centers, which the American occupation forces have controlled since the occupation of Iraq, have been getting filled. Those detaining the Iraqis are committing severe violations. Iraqis are being detained without being given a reason as to why, and their administrative detentions are being extended without going to court. Lawyers are being banned from visiting the detainees or reviewing the reasons behind their detention.
The calls for freedom and democracy to the occupiers in Iraq were quickly translated in these jails and detention centers, which amazingly hold thousands of Iraqis who face American accusations. The orders to arrest and detain people here are made according to the whims and interests of the occupiers.
I was detained in American jails. They transported us in garbage containers. After they beat me up, I was put in a garbage container and brought to the American side. They arrested me as an Iraqi in the garbage containers. When I got there, I found others who were arrested before me.
The American jails and detention centers have various names. However, they are the same in the way they are managed and how they treat the detainees. The Abu Ghraib scandal was but one story of hundreds of stories, which are not heard beyond the walls of these jails and detention centers.
With great sadness, the spotlight only focuses on the crimes of Abu Ghraib, but there are dozens, perhaps hundreds of thousands of crimes that are being committed in Iraqi jails every day, every hour. These crimes are not being seen by the media or human rights organizations.
All of Iraq, from the north to the south, has been transformed into a huge prison. Different forms of torture were committed against our people and public, unparalleled in history.
There is a lack of concern for human rights organizations, laws, and the Iraqi court system by the administrators of these prisons, who prohibit lawyers from entering and do not allow detainees to know the reason for their detention after they have been divided into two sections. These practices are considered a clear violation of Iraqi sovereignty, its land, and its people.
These detainees are suffering a lot. You'll find that many of them do not know when they will be released. Everything happens according to the whims of the occupation, which will release whoever it wants after people have been detained for years without being presented with a court warrant and without having a defense lawyer present. There are violations of the principles of human rights in this area.
This is how the occupiers transform these holding facilities into detention centers and prisons, which still stirs much controversy and questions about what's inside in the form of oppression and violations against the Iraqis. The slogans of these occupiers in Iraq have been exposed amidst Iraqi demands, both popular and political demands. They do not open the doors of oppressive occupation prisons or detention centers. From the Iraqi capital of Baghdad, Haider Qasim, Al-Alam.
قالت دانا برينو المتحدثة باسم البيت الأبيض.
White House spokeswoman Dana Perino said that the decision of closing down Guantanamo Bay prison will have to be made by the next president. Meanwhile, the Pentagon announced that the victims of September 11 will be allowed to attend the trials of suspected Guantanamo Bay prisoners starting from next month. The Pentagon had dropped charges against 5 detainees from Guantanamo Bay, but it said that other charges may be made against them at a later time.
سجن غوانتانامو سيء السمعة لن يغلق قبل انتهاء ولاية الرئيس الأمريكي الحالي جورج بوش.
The notorious Guantanamo Bay prison will not be closed before the end of President George Bush's term in office. However, the incoming president and Congress must move quickly to close it down. These were the words of Secretary of Defense Robert Gates, who's been calling for closing the controversial prison in Guantanamo Bay in Cuba since 2006. Gates said that the prison is a burden on the U.S., but the Bush administration can't close it down without legislation from Congress, which is unlikely to happen as everyone is preoccupied with the presidential elections. Therefore, the next administration will have to deal with the problem.
ولهذا فسيتعين على الإدارة المقبلة معالجة المسألة سريعاً.
It is known that the 2 presidential candidates have vowed to close down this prison, which along with its courts have generated a great deal of criticism and condemnation from human rights organizations and many governments.
محاكمات غوانتانامو لقيت انتكاسة أخيرا.
The Guantanamo Bay courts have recently faced another setback when the Pentagon dropped charges that were made against 5 prisoners, including 2 Saudis, 1 Sudanese, and a man with British residency, who said that he had confessed under torture that he was planning to make a radioactive bomb. About 600 detainees were in Guantanamo Bay. Now there are only 225 detainees accused of being members of Al-Qaeda, the Taliban, or affiliated groups.
وحركة طالبان وجماعات مرتبطة بهما ويعتبر جيتس أن سمعة السجن السيئة انتشرت.
Gates said that the prison's bad reputation has spread since it was opened and stuck with it, although it is one of the best-run prisons in the world. Misa Akbik Al-Arabiya.
العربية.
أفاد مراسل الجزيرة في إسلامباد نقلا عن مصادر أمنية.
Al Jazeera's correspondent in Islamabad cited security officials saying that 11 armed Taliban fighters were killed in Pakistan by airstrikes that were carried out by the Pakistani Air Force in Jarmain in the tribal district of Bajur. According to eyewitnesses, tribal militia allied with the government has demolished 10 homes of people loyal to the Taliban in Pakistan.
What is known as the Friends of Pakistan group, which includes the U.S., China, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates, refrained from giving direct aid to Islamabad.
The International Monetary Fund reported that Pakistan needs $15 billion during the upcoming 2 years in order to avoid bankruptcy. The global financial crisis has negatively affected Pakistan both at the political and social levels.
This is what the Pakistani citizens are afraid of if the country seeks the help of the International Monetary Fund. They fear that their country will be squeezed and depleted to the point where nothing is left. During what was called the Friends of Pakistan Conference, which was held in Washington and Islamabad, no funds were provided to Pakistan, although it only has enough money to last for 1 month.
Pakistan cannot wait for long.
Pakistan can't wait for long during the next 30 days. We must do something because the situation is really dangerous.
The fact that electricity is shut down for long hours has discouraged investors from investing in local factories. Some believe that the power outages are the result of conflicts between the government and the power plants. The people held demonstrations protesting the power outages and the increase in electricity prices. Then the demonstrations turned violent, which was evident when some power plants were burned down. An economy of terrorism. This is what Pakistan's economy has become since it started to support Washington. Political observers believe that the economy is mortgaged to one commodity, fighting terrorism, and that the country is paying the price for this.
I think that only 50% of the American aid promised has actually been given to Pakistan, most of which was not spent on building projects inside the country, rather on the war against terrorism, which affected our productivity as a nation.
Ordinary citizens are the real victims as their currency lost 30% of its value since Musharraf left office. This comes as the inflation rate increased to 25% and the rate of unemployment has reached unprecedented levels. The global economic crisis has negatively affected the democratic process in Pakistan. People have started to compare the time when Musharraf was in office, which was economically better, with the current democratic regime, which only brought price increases and inflation. Ahmed Zaidan, Al Jazeera, Islamabad.
In a presidential decision lacking any explanation, the head of the Palestinian intelligence services, Tawfiq Taraki, was removed from office. Meanwhile, everyone's waiting for Hamas's reaction, which has been calling for Taraki's dismissal, as well as the dismissal of the remaining chiefs of the Palestinian security agencies, which Hamas is accusing of harassing its members in the West Bank. The presidential order, which comes amidst preparations for the reconciliation between Hamas and Fatah, indicates that the decision is likely linked to the issue of reconciliation as opposed to Hamas's demands. Zuhair Sakala reports from Gaza.
In a presidential order that may seem usual in content but surprising in its timing, the Palestinian intelligence chief, Tawfiq Taraki, was given an early retirement. The decision comes at a time when Palestinians have started to pave the way for national dialogue and reconciliation. The decision carries with it many questions regarding its motives and implications, especially considering that one of the main articles in the national reconciliation is talking about the restructuring of the Palestinian security agencies.
We can't understand this move separately from its important timing. It came 2 days after the announcement of the Egyptian initiative regarding the revamping of the Palestinian security agencies, which must be based on professional and not factional standards.
There appears to be many questions surrounding this latest presidential order, with every politician trying to give his own explanation. Some describe the decision as bad because they say that it gives the impression that Abu Mazen has bowed to Hamas's pressures. Hamas has called for the dismissal of all of the leaders of the security agencies as a step to restructure it. Among them was Taraki, whom Hamas is accusing of standing behind an unprecedented campaign of arrests and assassinations, targeting its members in the West Bank.
The dismissal of Taraki has nothing to do with the reformation of the security agencies, because whoever gets fired can't be promoted. According to the information made available to us, the dismissal of Taraki is linked to internal feuds in the Ramallah Authority. In addition, the reformation of the security agencies goes beyond the scope of personnel, but requires the drafting of a national program.
The dismissal order was not carried out in the usual presidential decree, but was handed down verbally, with Taraki given the position of a minister. However, Taraki rejected the new position and accepted the dismissal. Meanwhile, the implications surrounding this decision continue to be the talk of politicians and observers, with all possibilities being treated equally until an official statement is issued, shedding light on the reasons and the implications surrounding it. Zuhair Sakala, Dubai TV, Gaza.
An IDF operation to arrest wanted men has resulted in the wounding of a 17-year-old Palestinian. The youth was shot in the head during a clash that erupted in the Al-Farah refugee camp outside Nablus. The shooting took place as the army was apparently attempting to arrest a wanted terrorist from the Islamic Jihad.
President Shimon Peres will travel to Sharm el-Sheikh tomorrow morning for talks with Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak. In an unusual gesture, Mubarak will greet Peres at the airport with a state ceremony in the presence of senior Egyptian cabinet ministers. They will also hold a press conference following their meeting, which will deal with Palestinian issues, with freeing Gilad Shalit and improving ties between Egypt and Israel. According to sources in the President's Bureau, Peres is spending today in consultations with top intelligence officials. The President has also held talks with Prime Minister Ehud Olmert, Foreign Minister Tzipi Livni, Defense Minister Ehud Barak and heads of the security forces on the items on the agenda for tomorrow's summit.
And in related news, an interesting comment today from the chairman of the Foreign Affairs and Security Committee in Egypt's parliament, Mohammed Basyouni, a former Egyptian ambassador to Israel. Basyouni said Cairo is working on a comprehensive plan that would require Israel to free 1,400 Palestinian prisoners in exchange for Gilad Shalit's release. A diplomatic source in Jerusalem said in response that the most urgent issue on the table right now is the possible release of 450 Palestinian prisoners. The source said Israel will be facing tough decisions, and that Hamas will also have to show some flexibility.
And meanwhile, Noam Shalit, the father of the captured IDF soldier Gilad Shalit, was in France today to help win his son's freedom. During a press conference in Paris, Shalit called on Hamas to provide indisputable proof that his son is still alive. Shalit said he believes that France, which holds the rotating presidency of the European Union, has recently become a major player in the Middle East and could work behind the scenes for his son's release.
France is the leader of the European Union today, and she became a major actor in the Middle East lately. So France can push the things behind the scenes, I think. Can expedite France cannot make negotiations with the Hamas, so it's obvious, but the French can expedite the things behind the scenes.
A shakeup within the Palestinian Authority. PA President Mahmoud Abbas has removed his top intelligence chief, who's been responsible for the crackdown on Hamas in the West Bank. Tawfiq Tarawi will be replaced as head of the General Intelligence Service by his deputy, Zaib Mansour. Tarawi will now serve as an aide to Abbas in a move intended to keep peace within the Fatah family. Insiders say Hamas demanded the sacking of Tarawi as a condition for advancing reconciliation talks between Abbas and the terror group.
أفرجت قوات الاحتلال الصهيوني الليلة الماضية عن النائب داوود أبو سير عضو المجلس التشريعي الفلسطيني.
The Israeli Zionist forces released parliament member Dahoud Abu Sgher, who represents the Change and Reform Party in Nablus in the northern West Bank after spending 17 months in prison. The occupation still detains 11,000 political prisoners, including 40 parliament members, former ministers, as well as political and military leaders representing different Palestinian factions.
The Zionist criminal detention of Palestinian political prisoners, including legitimately elected parliament members, continues while the world watches. The occupation has kidnapped 11,000 political prisoners, including 40 Palestinian parliament members. The Zionist occupation released the 54-year-old parliament member Dahoud Abu Zahir with a 20,000 shekel bond after he spent 17 months behind bars. Abu Zahir is the 8th parliament member that has been released this year. Hamas holds the Zionist occupation responsible for the lives and safety of detained Palestinian parliament members, especially because the occupation deliberately has been attacking them and increasing pressure on them. The occupation, which has made their lives hell, does not spare an opportunity to provoke and humiliate them as Palestinian symbols. The Change and Reform Party reiterated that kidnapping the parliament members is illegal and urged Arab, Islamic, and international parliaments to intervene on behalf of the kidnapped parliament members.
Parliament Speaker Dr. Ahmad Bahar praised the decision of the International Parliament Union to officially add Palestine as member of the Union and urged it to intervene in order to end the siege on Gaza and release the detained parliament members.
We demand that the International Parliamentary Union help end the siege on the Palestinian people and bring about the release of all Palestinian detainees in the occupation's prisons, especially the kidnapped parliament members, including Abdelaziz Douek.
Bahar condemned the provocative statements that were made by some of Fatah's leaders, saying that they do not help the ongoing dialogue in Cairo, which is aimed at bringing back Palestinian unity.
When the Hamas delegation sat down with our Egyptian brothers, headed by Minister Omar Suleiman, they made the suggestions. It is as if Fatah members refused the Egyptian initiative.
A human rights organization reiterated that the Zionist siege on Gaza has devastating effects on Gaza's environment, including its water, air, and soil. The siege caused services for civilians to deteriorate in major sectors.
نتيجة قيام الاحتلال الصهيوني بسرقة خيرات ومقدرات الشعب الفلسطيني.
Palestinians suffer from a severe water shortage because the Zionist occupation imposes a suffocating siege on Gaza and because they steal the resources of the Palestinian people. The Conscious Organization for Human Rights reiterated that the Zionist siege on Gaza has devastating effects on the Palestinian environment, including water, air, and soil.
هو منع الاحتلال للجهات المختصة من تنفيذ المشاريع التطويرية للمرافق الحيوية.
The main reason behind this environmental crisis is the fact that the occupation prevents carrying out developmental projects that are vital for its infrastructure, especially pertaining to the water and sewage systems. The organization released a report saying that the 3 water treatment centers in Gaza suffer from serious technical and operational problems, adding that these centers have not been fixed or developed since 1998. The report also pointed out the difficulties facing the 3 garbage disposal facilities, which need to be expanded since the 3 are extremely full. There is a need for developmental projects and the construction of a healthy landfill that will not harm the environment. The organization also warned that the crisis in Gaza may lead to serious environmental and health problems, such as what happened in the Bedouin village in March 2007, when the septic tank collapsed and flooded the village. There is an imminent danger.
عند انهيار حوض مياه الصرف الصحي على القرية.
Guilty of using disproportionate and excessive lethal force, the Israeli military is facing fresh accusations from a Palestinian human rights group that it is responsible for civilian deaths and for deliberately targeting children in Gaza. Ayman Mohyeddin has more.
For 4 months, the Israeli military has spared Gaza deadly attacks and destruction, but the impact of previous ones can still be felt among its population. In the 12 months before a truce brought calm to the Strip in June, 68 Palestinian children were killed in what the Palestinian Center for Human Rights is describing in a new report as, quote, disproportionate and excessive lethal force by the Israeli military.
In the course of the last year, 2007, 2008, there has been a trend by Israeli occupation forces. To us, it's been targeting not only civilians, but deliberate targeting of children.
Children like 15-year-old Islam Hussam al-Asawi, whose mother Fathiya watched as he ran out of the house when he heard an Israeli airstrike nearby. Minutes later, she watched in horror as her son was the victim of a subsequent attack.
They took the most valuable thing in my life.
Little can and has been done to help this shattered family. In its findings, the report also concluded it was not only justice that has been denied to the victims' families, but that there is a shortage of adequate resources to help children cope with the traumas they've experienced. 14-year-old Hassan Mahmoud watched as an Israeli missile killed his father. This footage shows the deadly aftermath of that strike just outside the front door of their house on the Israel-Gaza border. The shrapnel from the missile is still lodged in his brother's leg, and Hassan, traumatized by that attack, developed a severe speech impediment. Struggling to describe what he witnessed, he shows our camera the tangled metal of the missile's aftermath. Between those children killed and those who have witnessed trauma, the PCHR says Israel's targeting of densely populated areas means another troubling fact.
We have clear evidence to suggest and to say that there were patterns of deliberate killing and deliberate targeting of children.
But if Palestinian victims were hoping for justice, there's no evidence to suggest they will get it. Israel has never established an independent investigation to study any of these killings, despite continuous demands. So for now, the only comfort many of these victims can enjoy is that a fragile ceasefire that has been upheld has spared families and children from sharing their agonizing pain. Ayman Mohyeddin, Al Jazeera.
Get more news about the Middle East online at linktv.org/Mosaic. The Mosaic webpage offers a complete archive of Mosaic programs, program transcripts, the Mosaic Video Podcast, and the Mosaic Intelligence Report, a weekly analysis of the hottest stories from the Middle East. The views expressed on Mosaic are those of the participating broadcasters, not Link TV or its sponsors. The production of Mosaic is made possible with the support of viewers like you. Thank you. This program was brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Link TV is the only U.S. television network devoted to global and national news, with uncompromising documentaries and diverse cultural programs which connect you to the world.